there. Welcome to the mailbox. This another Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. and it is the day that was
Good afternoon, everyone. Kevin seems to be having a little difficulty with his connection. You welcome to the mailbox. And indeed, I'm Pastor Courtney Morrison. My co-host will join us shortly. As we've been doing all the past 11 years, we've been having great discussions. Yet, last week discussion, why are Jamaican men so angry? Well, it was so nice. We have to do it twice, and we brought back our guest to be talking with us today. And indeed, we want you to join us with him as we take it from our psychological standpoint. And we're excited to hear what he has to say this week. This is the Mailbox. This is a program designed for men with guests who are men, hosted by men, and is aired every Wednesday, unless it's a holiday at 5:30 p.m. right here on Love 101, the family station, serving you for the past 30 years and giving the wind a mighty voice. By the way, I'm Courtney Morrison. I know I said it before, but just want to say it again. My co-host has joined us, Kevin. We still seem to be having some technical difficulty with Kevin's connection. So we say to all our listeners, thanks for making it Love 101 at this time, your station of choice. We thank you for joining us. What an amazing discussion we continue to have. And yesterday was World Mental Health Day. And a lot of our men indeed are affected by this, and mental health disorders doesn't necessarily look like a frowning face. It may be someone who may just be smiling with you, and what they need is your word of concern, love, and appreciation that will help to empower, encourage, and uplift them from where they are. And some of these things don't last only a day, a week, a month, sometimes for a season, years. And so some of us who have the strength, who have the knowledge, and indeed the know-how, will have to run a marathon. It's not necessarily a 100-meter sprint. So we want to take it from the top today. And indeed, it was a great weekend. It was one that was enjoyable, one that brought cheer to a number of persons. We want to just continue to, bless Reverend Bishop Steve Blair Jr. and the Gateway Church. I had the privilege of sharing with them on Sunday, and it was really a great time. I noticed that the women's fellowship was led by a woman in a wheelchair. The integration that Reverend Blair has at his church, Reverend Steve Blair Jr., is just fascinating. I was amazed at what I saw. The integration of the youngsters and adults, and then those who are not as young as the rest of us were there. It was really a great day. Appreciate them there with us. Want to say big up to Nakiba Clark. She has twin sons. I call them Esau and Jacob. I don't know their real names. And to CJ and his wife and their son, Caleb. My grandson. Indeed, to them, a wonderful time. To the rest of the family, Crystal, Candice, Camelia, and Karen. Blessings to you all. This is the Mailbox. Our guest this evening is once again clinical psychologist Paul Smith. He gave us a great insight last week into anger, the psychology behind it, and why it seems our Jamaican men are so affected. And indeed, I just want to welcome him as he rejoins us today. We had such a good time, and so, he did it so nicely. We had to bring him back twice. He did it so nice, we had to bring him back twice. And he's back by popular demand. And it's good to have you, Dr. Paul Smith. Welcome to the Mailbox again, part 2. Why
Thank you
do
so
our
much. It's so good to
Jamaican
be
men
on.
It's good to be on, yes. Go ahead. We just want to tell you a little bit about our guest. You know, he really is one who makes psychology seem so simple. When he's through, you feel as if, they had this ad on television, somebody fell, got sick, and they asked if there's a doctor in the house, and someone came over and attended to the individual, and the person said, "Were you a doctor?" I said, "No." But they declared that they have been to a particular hotel, and so they were able to do the work. When Dr. Smith is finished reading, you feel like you're a psychologist yourself. He breaks it down so well that indeed you feel you can attend to some of what is happening round about you. Tell us a bit about yourself, Dr. Paul.
All right. And as I said, it's so good to be on again. I am a clinical psychologist, and that's where my passion lies. I'm also a minister of religion, a justice of the
Hey,
peace, a motivational speaker, and I'm presently working at Church Teachers College as director of teacher development and leadership. I love people. I love to empower others. I love to see people move from one emotional and mental level to the next. I like to see people lead fulfilling lives. And so, whatever I can do to help persons around me to be better, I actually do it. I love this song. If I can help somebody as I pass along, then my living shall not be in
will
vain. So
not
that's
be in
what
vain.
drives me in my daily living, my activities. I like to see people smile and be happy, and realize that they are worth it and they are worthwhile and that they're important and that they are purposeful and they
Yes.
deserve to be here and to occupy the space that they're in and to make the best use of it.
Awesome. What a combination. Minister of religion and a psychologist. Those two put together, bring about reconciliation, bring about restoration and redemption.
Yes.
He loves to see people smile. We have something in common. When I got saved in 1983, my favorite song was If I Could Help Somebody.
As I pass along.
Indeed, powerful song. He loves
Yes.
people. Dr. Paul, let's continue where we left off, and just somewhat of a synopsis to be given. Are our Jamaican men angry? Are men angry on a whole? What is happening there?
All right. So, we had a good time last week. And of course, the answer to the question, yes, the Jamaican men were consumed with anger. Inwardly, the anger is eating at them. The issues are many and varied, some emotional, some psychological, some mental. It happens as a result of financial issues, relationship issues, the inability to process anger in a healthy way, the issue of probably brokenness, broken homes, when they were children, the way they were grown up, the socio-cultural environment in which they grow up as well, the expectation as to who a man is, how a man should behave, what a man should do and not do, right? The impact of some lyrics, right? And just the for some the harsh economic crisis that they face. All of these put together will make men angry. But at the onset, we talk about emotional intelligence to be self-aware, you know, I am angry, but what makes me angry? What are my triggers? What do I now need to do? How do I process my emotion? All of these become important for men. So the women, they are prone to talking to a friend if they are down, if they're upset, they call a friend and they draw a chair and they talk and they might holler, they might cry, they might bawl, right? Some of the men now we have the pent up feeling inside, and it's not manly to say that I am hurt, I am feeling disappointed. And so the feelings are internalized and almost become what we call a figurative cancerous. It's at the happiness, the joy, the contentment, the sense of being. And so men become angry become angry because the outlet is not there for them to express exactly how they feel.
Think you're muted, Courtney.
But thank you, Dr. Paul. Thank you, Kevin. Welcome back, Kevin. We're just
Thank you.
discussing, are Jamaican men really angry? And if so, why? There's some words that you mentioned, Dr. Paul, that I would love for us to talk about when we get back from a break. Emotional intelligence, emotional quotient. And I'd like to ask a question. When it comes on to socio-economic development, are our men being neglected or are they being taken for granted? We go for a break and we come right back on the other side of this break to talk more. Why are Jamaican men so angry? I'm Pastor Courtney Morris. With me is Kevin Bailey and Dr. Paul Smith. It's the mailbox. Soon come back.
Man, I am a man, I am a man, I am a man, yes. Strong
Jamaica, our natural paradise, is filled with diverse animals and plants that benefit us in different ways. That's why we're drafting policies to safeguard biodiversity in areas such as Black River and Pedro Keys. We have also declared 15 areas as ecologically sensitive. Do your part and protect our natural resources, thereby securing the livelihoods of the fisherfolk and farmers who depend on these areas. The Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, protecting our natural resources, creating a sustainable environment.
Planning to sit the January CXC CSEC exams privately? Register with Overseas Examinations Commission before the registration deadline, October 13, 2023. Visit our Kingston office or Montego Bay office to complete your application form or send an email to help@overseasexams.org.jm. Follow our social media pages at Overseas Exams for more details. Remember, if you plan to sit the January CXC CSEC exams privately, the registration deadline is October 13, 2023.
Need a qualified counseling psychologist to help you navigate life and challenges? Call Andre Allen Casey. With over 10 years of experience in resolving relational issues, therapeutic interventions for couples, families, and individuals. Andre Allen Casey, licensed associate counseling psychologist with offices at 20 West Kings House Road, Kingston 10. Open Mondays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Telephone or WhatsApp 876-360-6594 or email AndreAllen_Casey at yahoo.com. Andre Allen Casey, counseling with a difference.
I am a man, I am a man, I am a man, yes.
Welcome back to the mailbox. It's 5:45 in the afternoon. We are here to serve you, and I've been doing so for the past 11 years, which means my co-host Kevin Bailey and our guest for today, Dr. Paul Smith. We're talking about why are our Jamaican men so angry? We just want to remind you, our listeners, that we're live on Facebook and YouTube at Love 101 FM Jamaica. You can make or leave your comments on our WhatsApp line at 876-997-3125. And we want you to ensure that those voice notes are not longer than 30 seconds. Kev, the inbox.
Hi. Yes, Courtney, greetings and welcome again, Dr. Smith. Good to have you with us. And I'm sure, Courtney, you were asking a few questions before the break, and I'd love Dr. Smith to share with us. After all, you know, today, especially being declared Paul Bogle's Day, as a man from St. Thomas, very proud of that. I want to say hello to the people of St. Thomas. You know, they call it the neglected parish, but we're seeing some attention. And persons may say that Paul Bogle uses anger in a productive, constructive way to defend the people who were suffering, the poor and the powerless. And so it appears that anger can actually serve us. And I really would love Dr. Smith to also look at that. How can we help our men to use the anger in a positive way, whether to defend the poor and the powerless or to protect our wives and relatives and girls and sons, etc., but to look at that side as well.
How to protect ourselves as men. We seem to neglect that portion quite often.
Of course. Is Dr. Smith there? Think we may have
I
lost him a
think we have
little.
lost him for a bit, Kevin. But part of one
Yeah.
of the things that he had mentioned is emotional intelligence and emotional quotient. Um,
Yes.
and really and truly, again, my question would and has been, are all Jamaican men being neglected or being taken for granted? Is it that we have believed they should know, or is it that we have trained them to believe that emotions reign supreme only in females? And so we tend to say women are emotional and men are logic minded. And as such, that teaching needs to somehow become more balanced so that our men will come to a position of recognizing that emotions are God given and they are not gender based when given. We have to come to a position of recognizing that the
Well,
anger as
definitely, definitely. And remember, when a child comes on the earth, and the child comes as a baby, and it requires parents who are adults to discipline, disciple, and love the child and unconditional love, and to give the child roots and wings. So a nurturing must take place. And one of those functions is how to accept all your feelings, all your emotions as a human being, male and female. And we have had just, I believe, our boys have had a rough time in getting a safe space from day one. So a part of the conversation has to be what is happening with the family, the basic unit of socialization. That's the primary unit, of socialization. It's the family. That's where the child comes. And if things have gone awry, I think we have to go right to the beginning and start to look at what has gone wrong with the family structure and the systems and the processes of the Jamaican family. So I'd love to get a conversation as he looks at the important thing of emotional intelligence, and as I would say this neglect would have happened in the family.
yes.
Yes.
And as I said, it's not just neglect, but an a doctrine, doctrine would not, a teaching of our men must be tough. They must be strong. And I put that strength in inverted commas, where he doesn't portray or allows his emotions to be manifested in particular ways, such as in crying or showing signs of weakness, or even in whether or not he can emotionally break down, you know. And we find that our mental institution, yesterday was World Mental Health Day, the man keeps that anger on the inside so pent up that it is waiting for the proverbial straw to fall on the camel's back to break it. And when that volcano erupts, the lava and the magma that comes out destroys everything, all relationships that comes in its wake. And he doesn't know what to do at that point. At that point, it leads into depression. It leads into scenarios where he forsakes the family. It leads into scenarios where he doesn't want to face society. And so we have to find a cure, a remedy, a re-socialization, a path that I'm sure as the mailbox we try to take and we continue to take, of empowering our men, of encouraging our men, of uplifting our men, and not beating them down, but guiding them through the process to understand what is this emotional intelligence we're speaking to.
Definitely, Courtney. That is what we have been attempting to do, making our contribution for the last 11 years. This is a space, a safe space for all men, where we challenge, we encourage, we empower them. And looking at so many areas, because it is not a simple problem, as Dr. Smith will tell you. Welcome back, Dr. Smith. We have so many questions, I tell you. We have to keep it till tomorrow. But could you Could you share on the importance of emotional intelligence? Kind of break it down for our listeners again, so that they get an understanding, especially our men, and how that affects how they behave as well.
All right. So emotional intelligence, simply put, is the ability to regulate one's emotion and also to be sensitive to the emotions of others. And a very critical aspect of that is what we call self-awareness, right? So it is tapping to the inner, the emotional man, and you ask a lot of questions. Who am I? On the continuum. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What am I good at? What do I need to improve on? How well do I communicate? How tolerant am I of the other person, of indifferences? What are my triggers? What makes me happy? What makes me sad? What makes me angry? What gets me upset? How do you touch the wrong chord with me? Right? What makes me cry? What makes me holler? What makes me bawl? Right? All of those things are important. What are the components that I enjoy in my relationship, be it intimate or social? How well do I get along with others? How well do I express myself so others know who I am and what I stand for? Right? What are my values? What is my purpose? What is my reason for being here? Those things you have to be aware of, and there are times that we tend not to tap in to this inner resource, as because one of the most important questions we can ask is, who am I? And I believe that we're ever evolving, right? Things happen to us and we don't even know that we were like this before, or we had this within us. We are stretched to the limit, and we realize that there was something about us that we did not know before, right? We have things that we call blind spots, and blind spots are things about us that we don't know but others see, right? And so it's a matter of tapping into and asking ourselves through reflection and introspection, who am I? But as we look at anger, the man needs to ask himself, what are my triggers? Why am I angry? What gets me angry? Why can't I not control my anger? Right? Why is it I find that I am intolerant of others who might have a different opinion from mine? Somebody who has a different value, right? I can't seem to gel with them. I can't connect, right? What is it in my past that might allow me to be the person I am today? How do I make a disconnection from my past, right? What are those things that are unhealthy that I carry on that I really need to put an end to? Self-awareness is important.
So, Dr. Smith, you have spoken quite a lot of areas, for the man to process. No, tell me, where is the man supposed to start? And I'm
Yes.
I'm I'm actually trying to morph into the family unit, the basic unit of socialization.
Mhm.
Is it that the Jamaican family has gone awry, that we have turned out our boys and our men like this, where we express it the way where we're seeing the high rates of homicide,
Mhm.
intimate partner violence, reckless
Mhm.
driving on the road? What has happened to the family? And what do we need to do, just starting, if we believe that this is the basic unit of socialization, Dr. Smith?
The family is important, and it will always be that first institution of socialization. And there are so many things that tend to work against the family unit. So we have some broken homes, we have some families that are dysfunctional, we have some fathers who are missing from the boy's life, right? And there's the absence of mentorship, the absence of a positive role model. There's a void that cannot be filled just by anybody, but can only be filled by a father. That becomes important. So we look at how boys are grown up, right, in the home. we realize that there are times that we have single parent homes, and mommy might work or daddy might work, whoever the single parent is. And so less time sometimes is given to nurture, to having conversation, to find out what is happening in the boy's life. The boys go through developmental stages and sometimes lacks the guidance, doesn't know how to transition from one stage to the next. There might be shame and guilt. There might be misconception as to who a man is, right? I even look at the issue as to how probably boys are raised, so I look at a scenario and a girl runs outside and she has a fall. She has an accident, and mommy might call her and say, "Come here, princess. What happened to you?" And say, "Mommy, I had a fall," and mommy rubs her here and kisses her and say, "Come here, me darling. Let me take care of you." And the same thing happened to the boy, and the boy started crying, and some parents might say, "Shut up your mouth, boy, you're crying, sissy. Shut up your mouth," right? And the boy realizes that, boy, he's condemned for crying, for expressing how he feels. And many times they grow up as men feeling that it is a shameful thing to express how I feel. So the home being the first institution, I wish that parents would actually, even if they don't know, be willing to learn how to raise boys, how boys think, how boys respond, right? And have an atmosphere where boys are allowed to be. And if they make mistakes, they are nurtured to learn from them, right? They are nurtured to express how they feel, the hurt, right? It is okay to not to be okay and express it.
Yes.
That kind of environment is important as we bring back the
Yes.
family together. The frequent conversations around the dinner table. And the dinner table is fast disappearing now. With the onset of technology, everybody is in their space, and it creates a sense of loneliness and isolation and less conversation. So young men grow up as strangers sometimes in a home, in the absence of communication and, checking in and care and nurturing. So these things are happening to the family, right? And our boys grow up as men, and these issues are not dealt with.
Thank you, Dr. Paul Smith. The time is now 6 p.m. on Love 101 FM. It is the program, The Mailbox. Courtney Morrison here along with Kevin Beard and Dr. Paul Smith. We take a break. We come back as we talk about why are Jamaican men so angry. So
The New Testament Church of God, in association with Kingdom Partners, invite you to a grand gospel crusade. Jesus is calling. What is your answer? Monday, October 9 through to Sunday, October 15, 6:30 each evening, with speakers Pastor Donnie McClurkin, Bishop Rowan Edwards, Reverend Easton Thompson, Evangelist Arthur Grant, and more. It's at the Gregory Park, Main Road, Portmore, St. Catherine. And also come out for the Health Fair, Saturday, October 14, 9 a.m. at Cedar Grove Academy.
Jamaica. Let's come together to celebrate a proud heritage. This Heritage Week, October 10 to 16. Highlights will include National Heritage Week Church Service, Bethel Temple Apostolic Church in Maypen, Sunday, October 15 at 10 a.m. Ceremony of Investiture of National Honors and Awards, Monday, October 16 at 8 a.m. National Heroes Day Concert, Monday, October 16 at 5 p.m. Most events will be broadcast live on TVJ, CVM, IRI FM, and social media platforms. Heritage Week 2023, celebrating a proud heritage, resilient and strong.
Get ready for another exciting show and set alive 1 to 5 this throwback Thursday, October 12. It will be a time to recollect and reconnect. Stick around for Fur Blast at 2 o'clock. 2:15, we go to Pieces of the Past. Then at 3 o'clock, Make We Talk. All of the summer will come alive 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. This throwback Thursday, October 12 on the family station, Love 101. Celebrating 30 years of music, family, and love.
Clearing personal, non-commercial shipments at the port? Avoid the wait. Request a contactless clearance through your agent today. It's more efficient. It's secure. The time by the Jamaica Customs Agency is
2 minutes past the hour 6 in the evening here on Love 101, family station, serving you for the last 30 years. The program is The Mailbox. With me, his co-hosts, Kevin Bailey and Dr. Paul Smith. We're talking about why are Jamaican men so angry. Are they really angry? What's triggering the anger if it is so? We have often heard the statement, hurting people hurt people. If our Jamaican men are hurting people, we need to ask the question, so what is hurting them? If the statement is believed that hurting people hurt people. Dr. Postman, before we left, you were telling us about the family. Kevin was asking about morphing into the family. There was something I learned many years ago through a program called Vertical Leap by Dr. Hal Hollingsworth. He says our five senses are what we normally use to assess what is happening around us. But if our senses are those receptors are faulty on the onset, for example, if our eyes we're colorblind, we may perceive something in a way that is not actually that. Have the teachings that our men been getting, Dr. Smith is not with us anymore, have those teachings that we have been getting, Kevin, could they have been somewhat faulty? Is it that they have been biased? Is it that they have been not principled but preferential? How are we going to re-educate and re-socialize now that, as Dr. Paul Smith said, we are evolving, we're constantly evolving and assessing what's happening? How do we actually get to that place where we know we're somewhat closer to what should be?
Well, very, very important there, Courtney. Very important question, because we have behaved our way into the situation. So we have to behave our way out of it. We cannot talk our way out of something we have behaved our way into. And we know significantly that modeling behaviors as parents, as adults, that is one of the most effective way of teaching our children. When they see us doing exactly what we want them to do, not just by speaking. So you are right. If they hear some words out of our mouth, if they see us watching certain stuff with our eyes, if they see us listening to certain stuff, they will think that these are normal, healthy way of living. And so who are we to blame when our children start to respond, react in a particular way? And I really think when you look at the family unit, and then, which is the primary unit of socialization, we'll have to agree in our evaluation that some things have gone wrong. And if we can be honest with ourselves, tell ourselves the truth, because we're not perfect, how can we improve on this? So for instance, could we ever change it that 80% of our children are not born out of wedlock? Could we change that statistic and have a higher percentage of our family adults prioritizing marriage, for instance, where two adults are committed in holy matrimony and will look after our children until death do us part? I'm just saying those are radical paradigm shift, but is it possible for our family structure to change? I would think so. And then the level of abuse that our boys have been undergoing, I think it's horrendous. The level of abuse, and I know glad Dr. Smith is back, because I love his comment on it. And people say, what? Well, men are absent, and yes, a large percentage of our men are absentee fathers, and then sometimes put stress on the single woman, who sometimes become abusive to the son who resemble them father, or who remind them of the father who has carried his love elsewhere. And so they know this place that anger. Eh?
The ugly papa.
Yes, and displays that anger. Dr. Smith, talk to us about that. Oh, Courtney, I like the way you were introducing the thing. Talk to Dr. Smith, because he was off when you were talking.
Hey, Kevin, some things I don't have a script for, and I don't remember at my age what I was saying. That's why I said it once. But we're asking the question, is it that our men, the faulty receptors, we have our senses, and let's say we're colorblind, we see some things, and what we're seeing is not really truthful. How do we re-educate, re-socialize our men? Have some of what we have been taught preferential as opposed to being principled? Have some of what we have been taught really could be deemed a fallacy and a generalization as opposed to what is truth and what should obtain? How do we rectify such matter? What is it that will cause us to get closer to the truth, seeing that we are constantly evolving?
All right, so we have the truth versus the fallacy. And of course,
Yes.
there are certain things that we grew up on, and after I realized that they were just fallacious, you know. And I think that there has got to be institutions that need to support the home, right? An institution as a church. I go back to church.
Mhm.
And it's important that our leaders tap into the need that men ought to be re-socialized and start the conversation at church as well, equipping the men to be men the biblical way, what the Bible says about what man is, his responsibility. It needs to start there. The conversation needs to be had at school when the boys go to school, whether it is family life, education, or guidance and counseling. But the fact that the homes are there and for some extent not function, we need some supporting agencies, institutions to kind of strengthen. So the conversation is transposed from one institution to the next, right? As we look at who a man is, in some instances, a man is portrayed by in the music, they have to be tough and kind of without emotion and merciless. And our young men grow up and think, say, yes, that's how I want to be merciless. The song sometimes degrade women, and they grew up with that women are just some sex tool or some object, that should be treated a particular way, and they feed their minds into all of these kind of things. There comes a time when the boy develops and might not want to connect with parents at that time, and is more inclined to connect with peers, and they get some unfiltered information there as well, right? But what I'm saying is that, in the absence, we don't have a perfect home, but the conversation needs to start. And I go for mentorship of men. I look at families mentoring other families, men mentoring boys, those kind of things, and start the conversation. Allow them to express themselves so you can know what the faulty cognition is, right? And start right there, reach them where they are. Ask questions, and it is done in a non-judgmental atmosphere because it's a teaching, learning moment, right? And just find out what is happening. What are the thoughts they have that are faulty? Where did they get those from? And start the conversation. We need to have the conversation. I don't think we need to give up. There's still
Yes.
hope. There's still hope, right? And the family can never be eradicated. There's always a role for the family. I want to refine it and start the conversation. Help our parents. Help our
Thank,
mothers.
thank,
Talk. Yes.
yeah. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Smith. And we want to encourage those who are listening. You can share with us. You can ask a question as well and give us your feedback on social media. So one of the things I've observed in the last few years is a number of men who are Christians in the church, but they have been alienated from their sons. They have no relationship with their sons. I don't know if it's something you have seen, but in my last 18 years, I must be honest with you,
Yeah.
I have seen it where they have the relationship with their daughters, but they have no relationship
Mhm.
with their sons. And yet they're a part of the body of
Yes.
Christ that is supposed to know different. What is happening there? Talk to us about that, Dr. Smith.
Very important question. And what one of the things I notice is that certain things are passed on from generation to generation. So the man might say to you, when I was a child, my father didn't tell me that he loved me, right? He did not sit and talk to me. And so he grows up with that detachment, not knowing the skill sets to kind of reach his son. So it continues. He doesn't know how to relate to him, right? we live in a homophobic society, so some men believe that it's not okay to hug their son and say, son, I love you. It's not man, it's not a manly thing to do. And the son needs to hear that. The son needs to hear that daddy approves of him, daddy loves him, and daddy affirms him, and daddy wants him to become the best man possible. When there's that disconnect, you have to get to the root of it. And so some men didn't get it, and so they say they can't pass it on. But others are willing to reverse that cycle and learn, right? But it is important that the father connects, right? As good as mommy is, mommy has a role, daddy has a role, right? Daddy ought to be able to have that conversation with the boy when he's going through puberty and developmental changes and see a girl and like the girl and say, daddy, what we must do, those kind of things. And daddy can say, I was there once and A, B, and C. That conversation, he connects and identifies with daddy, right? So daddy need to realize now that his role is so vital in the child's life, and there must be this willingness now to even learn, how do I communicate with my son? You know, father son moment. What do I say? What can we watch together? What sports can we do together? Just try to break it. I believe is very important.
Thank you, Dr. Paul Smith. You know, I really want us to look at, and we're going to have to do it after this break. What are some of those fallacies that our men have been taught that needs to be highlighted and the truth be exposed, so that in our minds, our men who have been taught the wrong things, for example, Kevin, I didn't even know until we were doing this program that some men tell their sons that men don't apologize. Men don't say that they're sorry. I didn't know this. I didn't know. I thought a big man know for say sorry. I didn't know that there were some young men who were told this and that big man don't bow to nobody. We want to look at some of those fallacies and what are the correct ways that we can do the approach. We're going to do that right after this break. You're listening to the program, The Mailbox. Courtney Morrison, along with me, Kevin Bailey, and our guest, Dr. Paul Smith. Why are Jamaican men so angry? This is Love 101 FM. Right back after these break.
Embrace the Promise, the Worship Edition, Night 1, Friday, October 20. Free admission worship conference with Ron Canoli and O'Neill Watson, 7 p.m. Torrington Wesleyan Holiness Church, Strathbogie. Night 2, Saturday, October 21 at 6 p.m. The paid event at Manning's High School with Dr. KJ, Ron Canoli, Sonny Badu, O'Neill Watson, and more. Pre-sold 4,000 at the gate, 5,000. VIP pre-sold 6,000 at the gate, 8,000. Yeah, Fontana and the South Sea Pharmacies.
Follow Grace Sardine, follow the better flavor. Grace Sardine with the chef and the beginner. Follow the one with pepper, that are the winner. Shop on supermarkets, everybody sell it. Do all of them nice. Pass the back, make push it.
Grace Sardines, follow the better flavor.
I am a man, I am a man, I am a man. Yes, strong man.
Welcome back. We're back with us here on the Mailbox. We're into our final segment. Why are Jamaican men so angry? What are some of the fallacies that our men have been taught that may directly or indirectly lead to their anger? Is what we're looking at in this segment, and how can we expose the truth so that indeed our men can evolve into what they really should be looking like. Dr. Paul Smith, help us.
Big man no cry. Big man no cry. And I want to start there. So some men believe that he's less of a man if he cries. Right? So he grows up saying that you're a man, you must be tough, you must cry. If you cry, you're a sissy, you're a soft man, right? And so that, I believe, is a fallacy, right? I cry. I don't know if you gentlemen cry, but I don't cry every minute.
Yeah, man. Ball sometimes.
Yes.
Wow, I cry.
They don't tell you that I'm a ball and preacher too.
Yes, you know, it's a part of who we are. We were designed for to shed some tears, you know,
Yes.
and crying heals. It is therapy. It melts the ice. So it is important. That's one I look at. Another thing is that, as I said, the man must not apologize, because if he apologizes, then he's soft. He's vulnerable. So even if he's wrong, because I'm a man, I'm a wear the pants, right? Me not apologize. That becomes an issue as well. You know, the issue of being vulnerable and say that, boy, I am really disappointed, I am hurt. That becomes another issue. The fallacy of for some men to grow up that believe that, boy, man mustn't, bird can't fly upon one wing. Yeah. So the fidelity to one partner is not manly. So he goes and he hunts and he have circles and he has families and him friends and big him up and him a Dan Gargan. Yeah, that kind of thing, and he beat him chest and say, yeah, me get 3 youth, me get 4 youths, right? And to him, that is what a man is about. So that is a myth, And as I said last week, one of the issues that some men face is that they have too many families, right? So they have 10 families, the money can't stretch, probably they're not working to take care of all the 10 families in the 10 homes. And that becomes a melting pot for them, right? And sometimes they flip, right? They flip. So we need to say to them that, guess what, man? It takes a real man, a true man, to take care of his family, and just to go ahead and just be irresponsible enough to just have children in every 14 parish, and you can't take care of. That is not what is. We have a responsibility to be there and to guide, and it is much more economical to have 5 children in one home, where they eat from one pot, than to have 5 different homes, right? And you can't manage it. That becomes another melting point for men. So I believe that these are some of the myths that I can readily think of right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
No. Thank you, Dr. Smith. In Jamaica, the man them say, big man not take no chat.
Yes.
Big man not take no chat. So what they are saying is, look here, me in this respectful conversation to listen to you. Me at the Dangagan, as you have said, and when me say and do goes, and therefore there's no mutual respect for the other person's perspective or position, and isn't that something, the man them said they want respect, but shouldn't they show respect too? what is happening there?
It goes both ways. It goes both ways. And it's a matter of educating our men that respect begets respect, right? And sometimes even in relationship, they believe that the woman must respect them, but the respect is not returned, right? But because I'm a man and I'm wearing the pants, you must respect and do what I say, They believe that, boy, as a man, I must lead and I must be an autocratic leader, whatever I say, and they lead the children like that. So
Dr. Smith, isn't the Bible said the woman must submit to the man? Isn't that what the scripture say? That means to say the woman must submit to the man in everything. So me just tell you how the man them push the thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So how we answer that?
In achieving that now, the man becomes militant. And so the Bible says you must submit. But then he forgets the part where it says you must love your wife. So the more you love your wife, it's the easier it is for her to submit, because she feels loved and appreciated, right? And so she will submit. But there are men who have a hammer. The Bible says submit, move, submit, move, submit, move. And there's this rebellion because she feels less than. She feels unappreciated. So as a man loves the wife will submit. Right?
Indeed, because some of our men have been taught that's what respect is, to hammer the wife, to demand a certain behavior.
Yes.
And so it is what we believe needs to, the re-education process, the re-socialization must begin here. who will take the bull by the horn? The proverbial bull, or well, men are bulls, eh? Who will take and actually tame the lion? Who and how can we get it done? What role does the church has to play? Does our government have a role to play? I saw
Oh
somebody
yeah,
asking the
yeah.
question the other day. Should there be a ministry of the family in government where we
Mm.
look at that and attend to that? How
Yes,
what
yes.
can we do?
The family needs focus from policy, right? I think there ought to be a ministry that looks at the family, you know, empower other persons to empower the family, work with families, work with dysfunctional families, and not to be reactive, but look at the root cause of what might have a family dysfunctional, right? And try to provide as much the empowerment, teach families to fish, you know, empower them, have workshops, have parenting seminars. The church has a role to play, you know, and it's not just about going and preaching, because we are preaching to persons who have psychological and mental and emotional issues. And sometimes we miss out on that and we spiritualize the entire man. So after the message is good, that the family goes back home where things are dysfunctional, right? The son goes back home to that space of sadness and isolation. So we have to have targeted approaches and programs, and we talk to men and reason with men, have persons who are trained and resort come in and talk to our men, you know, hear what they have to say, hear what their issues are, you know, and give them that outlet to talk and to be there and to guide the church, the government, community leaders, justice of the peace, whoever the persons are. You know, we need to just say, listen, we have to make sure that our men are nurtured and become the men that God wants them to be. And just say, hey, I'm not in it for money. I am in it for humanity, because I want my society to be better. I want schools to be better. I want church to be better. If men are good, society is good. If men are good, the home is good. Church good. Work good. Because men believe that they are important and they must be here. Man a man, and man must be taken care of in every facet. And there are too many times we tend to bash even the good men. They come to Father's Day and we bash everybody. And the good ones sometimes become so discouraged. We must affirm them and set them as examples and empower them to reach other man. Each man reach one. I believe that's a start.
Dr. Smith, lots of things for food for thought. How would you help a man who realize he has an anger issue and he really would love to change his behavior? He may have done something wrong, but he just realized, oh gosh, I don't want this to continue in the generations, and I want to change. You know, can I work through what are some of the things that you would say to him?
And the first point of change is to realize that you have a problem. So I like that scenario, right? So the first thing you have to say is that, again, anger is natural, but when it gets out of control, it becomes concerning. As a psychologist, I believe in cause and effect. So what is causing it? And there are times you have to go as far as childhood. What happened, right? What broke the pipe there, right? And have that conversation. But the atmosphere will have to be one that is not judgmental. And not because you have made an error, you cannot be redeemed. So we have to have that redemptive approach. Listen, you know, and allow them to speak and let it out, right? And there are times we tend to want to kind of put women in this session, have this session for the man, make the man talk, right? And let him be. But it is important that you get to the root cause of it. What is causing it? Inspire hope. If you want to change, it can happen, but the change begins with you. You are redeemable. You're not a cast out. You're not a cast away. You can change. You can become who God wants you to be. You can fulfill purpose, right? And you empower him with the skills and the tools and the resources that are necessary. But the atmosphere must be a safe space where the man is allowed to be vulnerable, right? And start from there. But the greatest act of change is when you say, I need to change. I don't like what is happening to me and I need to change. Man, when that statement is made, it is awesome. It is
Yes, it
awesome.
is. Dr. Paul Smith,
Yes.
you know what I love about what you just said, and just such a wonderful way to wrap up and put everything together. Not only must he say that indeed he needs to change, but he must recognize that he is redeemable,
Redeemable.
things can become reconciled, and he can become
Yes.
restored. When a man is acknowledged, appreciated, and affirmed, you can
Yeah.
see the greatest man that he
Oh,
can be.
yes.
And
Oh,
on the
yes.
other end, doesn't show us very well. I like how Kevin
Yes.
started. How can we use our anger? Today is Paul Boger's day, and Paul
Yeah.
Boger did an amazing thing, being
No.
angered by injustice, and he went
Mhm.
and did it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Gentlemen, time done. You never believe it. Look like poetry, but I know, there's just so much to be said in so little time, indeed. And we're hoping that somehow and by some means we'd have been able to have done it all today. But indeed, we have come to the end of our show, and we say thanks to you, Dr. Paul Smith, for being here with us and taking the time out 2 weeks straight to be
Yeah.
here with us. Appreciate it, appreciate it, appreciate it.
My
Thanks
pleasure.
to our producer, Trisha S. Bryan, to Timoy Butler for technical support. We end the show with this quote: holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You're the one who gets burned. That was said by the Buddha.
So, this was the program designed for men with guests who are men. This is where we challenge, encourage, and empower our men. Thanks again, Dr. Smith.
Blessings.
My
Catch you next
pleasure.
week. Same place, same time. This is the Mailbox, the program that is next week. We look at, is there really such a thing as a single man? Next week, Monday.
Mandea.